for me 말만 해와주니 자라나게 물 줘서 네 다가지 Where you move Go where you move Baby know where you move.
Welcome to the KYP podcast. My name is Dany. I'm here with my co-host
Asian sensation James.
Kevin G.
We should definitely just do like that as a running gag. Just every time Jay talks, he's like he has a new nickname every episode.
My favorite one is J Watch.
Oh shit, I'm gonna use that one next time.
J Watch.
I call you J Line.
J Line.
J line, yeah.
Yeah,
If
J.
I'm skinny,
yeah.
you know.
Show it to us. Show me. Oh, J Line. J Line.
Yeah, that's trademarked. Okay.
You know how James Harden has the beard?
Yeah,
The J Line.
I got the knife.
Yeah.
You got the knife that
Knife.
cuts through diamond. You got a diamond cutter.
Oh yeah, I remember when you were posting a lot for Kill Your Pride, the clothing line.
Yeah.
Every time your caption is just knives. Like, you're something else, James. You're something else. Let me
But
tell
also-
I mean, you know, paper cuts, bro.
But also you do this thing, right, where you just clench your jaw
Yeah.
just to have that muscle flex.
Yeah.
But another
That
thing
hurts
to
my
get
jaw.
a jawline is when you push your tongue above the roof of your mouth, and that really improves the posture. Because at the end of the day, I think people don't realize that a jawline is it all has to do with posture too. Like some people do have fat underneath
Yeah, so I
there.
stretch a lot here.
But yeah, exactly. If you stretch out and you stand really straight, you'll have a really good jawline. Because people like hunch forward.
That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the clenching of the jaw, this thing
So bad for you.
that James does. You know, my experience with that growing up was whenever my dad was cheesed, like he wouldn't go straight to the violent words, but the first sign is the clenched jaw. Like
Yeah?
he fucking like we're at a dinner table, like there's guests and stuff, we knock over a glass, he just gives you the fucking look and that's my experience with it, but I'm glad that
Does that
you're
remind you of your dad?
I'm glad you're rebranding it. Now I just think I see that and I think of a pussy. So you've really helped me on my road to rehabilitation. So I appreciate you.
You're welcome, man.
J-line.
Just call me daddy next time.
Call me daddy. Oh, that's a podcast. That's huge.
Oh, for real?
Call me daddy. Call her daddy. Call her daddy.
You know when
Oh,
you're at a
okay.
table and then your girlfriend says, "Hey, can you pass me the salt, daddy?" And then both of you reach for the salt.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen those memes where it's like a boyfriend and the
The dad.
daughter's father?
Yeah.
What would you do if someone did that to your daughter? Like you were at dinner with your daughter and his boyfriend, and he's like, "Dad, can you do this?" And then the boyfriend reaches it for the salt.
She's not allowed to date anybody
No.
for the rest of
I
her
think
life.
I'd have a nice conversation with him with a Glock.
yeah. Show him your knife collection.
It's like that. What was it? That movie, Bad Boys?
Bad boy. Oh yeah, where
Oh, with
See-
James Franco?
no,
No.
where Will Smith. And,
Oh yeah, Will Smith. Yeah.
Will Smith and Martin.
I don't remember
yeah.
his name.
Will Smith and the other star of the movie they're just pressing this guy who's
Yeah.
at the door picking up the daughter.
That's a classic scene.
Yeah.
The guy's like, he's basically like, if you don't bring my daughter back at this time, I'm gonna pop your cap. And then he waves a loaded handgun in his face.
Yeah.
And you just see like the kid trying to dodge the fucking gun as he's waving it in his face. And then the mom comes out of nowhere, is like, "Honey, why are you pressing him?"
Yeah,
Like-
she's super nice. Yeah, there's always the hard ball.
That's one of my favorite terms. The action, moving your gun around, waving your gun around, brandishing a firearm. I love the way that sounds. You always hear it in like police reports. He was charged for brandishing a firearm. It just sounds so cool.
That's called
Brandishing.
brandishing.
Brandishing is
That's a charge. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, it's actually an action. Brandishing.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's a cool word.
Yeah.
Brandishing.
Yeah. We don't see a lot of guns out here.
No, Canada's.
Have you ever seen a gun?
Right here, baby.
Yeah.
I've never like really seen one per se, but like I do have my firearms. Like I have my firearms permit for hunting, just
Yeah.
my non-restrictive, so
Yeah.
I can buy shotguns and bolt action rifles and lever action rifles.
Have you gone to a shooting range?
No, I've never.
There is
been.
one, right?
There's a bunch in Montreal.
Yeah.
But they're all handguns.
Okay.
But the thing is that our government just banned the sales of handguns now. So it's kind of really weird because you can't buy a handgun anymore. But then
At the range, you can only shoot a handgun.
yeah, because you can't shoot a high-powered caliber rifle unless you go outside of Montreal, right? But also the beauty about my firearms class is that I've realized that people aren't, when you're in a school, right? Like people in your entourage have basically the same smartness. You have some smarter people, some really like in the middle class range of IQ. But then when you go the public sector or let's say driver's test or firearms test, you really see the two extremes. You have the people who really don't understand anything about life, and you have the people that are way too smart to be in this room. So I remember we were talking about shotguns, right? We were talking about shotgun shells. And this instructor was saying, okay, so you use this shell, we call it a bird shot because you use it against birds, which is tiny pellets, and they just like, how a shotgun goes.
Yeah.
And then we have these ones that are buckshot because the pebbles are bigger. They can kill a deer quicker because you don't want to inflict suffering on the animal. You just want to kill it as quick as you can. Yeah. And then one guy in my class just raised his hand and was like, sir, can I use a buckshot on a bird? And then the guy just looked at him and was like, bro, like if you use a buckshot on a bird, you won't have a bird anymore.
Would destroy the bird.
You'd legit explode the bird.
Yeah.
My experience in firearms class was really interesting. It's a lot of stuff I already knew.
But do you shoot in the class?
No, so
It's just theory.
It's a lot of theory, but then it's mostly safety handling. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people don't understand firearm safety, and it's quite scary.
It's kind of like a driver's ed class, but for a gun.
Yes, exactly. So to get your firearms license with unrestricted, you just have to go through a basic class, understand the safety. But to get your restrictive, which is any assault rifle, any high-powered caliber handguns, or just any handguns, concealable guns, then you need to go to the range and then you do an exam where they practice your efficiency with the firearms.
Yeah, my boy, he works for Garda, and he had to do his I guess the restrictive one.
The PAL.
Yeah, so he was telling me he was shooting a handgun.
Yeah, that's fun. I wish I could do it, but it's very expensive.
Yeah, you got to invest, right?
Like all these costs for your class, for your exam, and then on top of that, if you want to own a handgun, you have to be registered at a club. So that's $2,000 a year just being a member at the club.
Oh, everything's just about money at the end of the day, man.
Exactly.
I mean, you kind of have to restrict that, like having a
That is true too.
like make it not accessible for everybody.
But in Canada, like Dany was telling us, even when he does get the firearm, it's not like you can really use it.
No, you can.
Basically,
Hey,
there's
you're going to
no
jail, bro.
basically there's no scenario in Canada where you can properly use
Can't even
it,
pepper spray somebody.
except for like
Yeah.
hunting, right?
Yeah, and even hunting a lot. One thing in hunting is that let's say you're using a rifle to hunt a deer, and a lot of the government people, what they do is that they would go during hunting season to examine people. And if you get caught using birdshot inside of your shotgun hunting a deer, that's like a felony.
Oh wow.
So they would come by you and then open your shotgun and then look at your rounds. And if by accident you accidentally put a bird shot inside of your shotgun to hunt a deer, that's a felony. You lose a license and you might go to jail.
Dang. So you get fined as well. I'm
Yeah, you
assuming.
get fined.
There's rules, right?
Yeah, because it's animal cruelty, right?
I'm kind of happy that the gun laws in Canada are so strict. I don't want to get into a huge debate, but it would just be stressful to live in a city or in a place where you constantly have to worry about who has a gun. You're partying, you're having a good time. You don't know who has a gun, doesn't have a gun.
Yeah, I was saying.
Yeah.
I think was it yesterday? No, I was not telling you. I was telling to a friend that I went to Chicago, right? And Chicago is like a gun state, and you could carry a gun. And I'm going to the restaurant after work, and then there's a sign, for like no smoking sign. but it's a no gun sign.
Oh, guys.
Like,
Okay.
you can't bring a gun into the restaurant. Like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen that in my life.
My buddy was telling me about this like underground club
Yeah.
in Toronto. Obviously it's illegal, you know, it's
Yeah.
like not licensed for alcohol, like all types of fuck shit is happening. It's like
fuck.
it's like just a door on the street in between like a pharmacy and you know, like a burger place.
Okay.
And
It's like Fight Club.
yeah, it's a Fight
Yeah.
Club situation, right? And he was just drunk one night, 3 a.m. And he's like, you know, his buddies wanted to keep the party going. And they just randomly shouted on the street, yo, anyone know any after hours
Yeah,
clubs? And
yeah.
then the guy was like, yeah, just up the street.
Classic.
And then they walk in. And the first thing they see, this is Toronto. They walk into the club. The first thing they see is a giant sign saying "No guns allowed," and there was no security, no pat down. It's
Oh
just
my
just a
gosh.
sign that said "No guns," and then you walk in.
Is that just being ironic, or
I think it,
like was it in neon, or was
no,
it?
it was like a serious sign.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a sketchy story. Like he asked me if I wanted to check it out next time.
Was it a good time though?
It was like a rock and roll like biker bar.
That's why.
Yeah.
No wonder.
Yeah.
Like a lot of biker
Everybody
bars.
was just he's like a young Asian, half Asian guy. Everybody was looking at
He was
like,
out of
what,
place,
yeah, what the
yeah.
fuck are they doing?
Yeah, but
here?
you have to think about it. A lot of biker bars are controlled by like the Hells Angel and still
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of things.
They're all-
Even in Montreal.
that
Yeah,
place
for
definitely
sure.
associated.
That's why there's like
Yeah.
no guns, because a lot of people don't know. Like, you know, I'm a big like avid like promoter of having guns. Not well. Long story short,
Scratch that.
but anyway, so
Oh, let's quit the podcast. we just got canceled. Game over.
Game over.
Fatality. Wasted. Boom.
Headshot.
but yeah, it's a lot of people don't realize, like, yeah, as much as you want to ban guns and everything, most guns that are committed in crimes are illegal.
Are illegal
Yeah, of
anyways,
course.
right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's pretty, if you know people, you're a few degrees of, how do you call them? Degrees of
Yeah. Separation.
degrees of separation from someone who can sell you an illegal firearms.
Yeah. How many degrees do you think? So I'm guessing it changes from city to city. Probably like in like Florida or something, it's like 1 degree removed.
Yeah, exactly.
What if you had to guess? You know, how many degrees on average are we removed from
Probably three.
getting a piece?
Probably three.
Getting a piece.
Yeah. Well, one.
No, because like you know,
Wait,
like
what?
if,
I don't know.
if you're affiliated with anyone who does illegal activities,
They would. They
know.
would know how to
Exactly.
get one. Yeah. They should know how.
they
to get
should
one.
know how.
Yeah.
It's all underground, right?
Because under like doing business underground or doing things associated to the crime world, there's no contracts. Like there's no lawyers to come if
Just
someone,
loyalty.
yeah, if your
trust.
business partner or your client fucks you over, there's no contract. Like you can't pull up the contract and say, hey, you know,
The contract is your life, by the way.
yeah, it's your life.
Yeah.
And you know, to enforce it, you gotta brandish your firearm sometime.
Nice.
Full circle.
Brandish.
I like that.
Yeah. So what were we supposed to talk about in this episode?
No, I think we just started talking about guns, and I got like
it's
really
just,
involved.
Yeah, I like.
You got nuts.
Yeah, it was very interesting. So
Because like everything like in Canada is like very interesting about the self-defense laws.
Yeah, let's
right?
talk about that.
do you want to talk
Yeah.
about why you're so interested in guns and why you're interested in getting one? Is it more because I know you're like a collector's of like, you know, collector knives, collector axes and stuff. Is that it's part of building your armory?
Yeah, so as growing up, I never knew my grandfather, but my grandfather was a corporal in the South Vietnamese army. My dad loves the military too, but he doesn't want to be involved in the military because he lost his father when he was probably like 4 or 5 years old.
Oh, okay. So you never met your grandfather?
No, I never met my grandfather. And so growing up, you know, I've had these little, I love cars, but the thing I always had was the Lego pieces, the medieval Lego pieces or the Star Wars one.
Yeah.
Or I also had the green little soldiers. And, you know, you give me that shit, then I was just like setting up barbed wires. Like my mom would walk around. She's like, what the fuck? And then she would step on accidentally on one of my tanks.
Yeah.
Or my dad was like, why are you putting tanks on the stairs? And then he would come down and then slip on one of the tanks and fall down 4 stairs.
Jeez.
So
But you heard stories about your grandfather. And
Yes.
that's what you think. That's why you were interested in like military stuff.
I think honestly it was just a thing growing up. You know, guys, when you grow up, you either want to be a policeman, a fireman, astronaut. You want to be that manly guy you see on TV. And it just happened that military was one of the things I got really interested in. And as time went on, I remember in high school, I really got into physics. And one thing that was in my mind, engraved in my mind, is like, I don't want to go into IT. I want to be a ballistic physicist and work for these big corporations designing firearms, designing ammunition, all these things. So I was way advanced. I was way beyond all of my classmates in terms of physics, right? Like everyone was
You had
just,
an interest in it.
hey, how do you calculate acceleration? And then after class, I'd walk up to the teacher and say, excuse me, sir, like I'm looking at this formula. I'm trying to figure out the coefficient of drag and figuring out like all the ballistic stuff. And he's like, how the fuck do you know this? Oh yeah, I was just interested in it and I was just reading, right? And then after high school, I got to a point where my grades really weren't high enough. I was probably like a 75, 70 average like student. And I was really contemplating on joining the military. I wanted to join as a combat medic because gone through some experience and I wanted to just help people out. Like I'm not a big fan of taking, you know, like a lot of people, they preach about self-defense and like taking lives of people. I don't want to be that person. I want a people similar to, if you guys know Hacksaw Ridge, the movie.
Yeah, I'm familiar. I don't remember it. I think I watched it though.
So the guy was inspired from, he was really religious and his religion prevented him from carrying a firearm. So what he did during the invasion of, I can't remember, of, well, Hacksaw Ridge, but I think it was on the island of Okinawa. So the soldiers would climb up the hill and then they would try to push in the Japanese position. And then when that didn't happen, they would climb back down. But what happened is that a lot of people were left behind. And so what he did is that he saw the opportunity to help his comrades. So for like 72 hours, he would run back and forth, carrying the wounded, and then go back to the ridge, tie them to a rope, and then lower them. So he saved, I think, over 40, 50 lives of like soldiers, and he earned the Medal of Honor.
Wow.
In my mind, and one line that he says is that while everyone is out there taking lives, I'm here to save lives. And I really took that to heart, and I really wanted to join the military to help. Like I had the sense of pride to defend my country, but I didn't want to defend my country by taking lives. I wanted to defend my country by saving lives and protect my family and stuff like that. And I really got interested in the military, right? Like all the mechanics, the ballistics, the engineering. You know how guys, they like drool over when you lift the hood of a car and you see a turbo there. And you're like, what the fuck? You LS swap your car? And then they get nerdy all about like all the tubing, all the exhaust, all the wiring. For me, it was like with firearms, just the mechanic of everything.
A gun, right?
Yeah.
It is interesting.
It's super
It's
interesting.
a small thing that has so much power, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what brain made you, like, who designed this?
Yeah.
And then eventually, you know, I started reading about like military history. I really love military history because you realize that no matter what you do, humans are the same. We committed the same mistake, both which led to World War I, World War II. It started the same exact way.
Yeah.
But that's why I really developed this thing. And then eventually I saw Kingsman. You know, it doesn't help. You wear suits and you have an armory. And what's the closest thing you can get in Canada? Which
Literally Dany's life. Literally Dany's life is to have that room in Kingsman.
Secret society.
Like in your closet where you press a button or you pull a bookshelf and all the weapons come up, the lights. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh, this is so sick. But yeah, that's why I'm really into that. But then, you know, firearms not accessible in Canada, and the only thing that's accessible is pretty much knives.
I thought you were gonna say a camera because you could shoot with a camera.
Yeah, no. You know, actually, okay, I'm not gonna say it because I'm gonna get canceled.
Danny, I'm curious to like, cause you know you're interested in many different things, but there is a overlying theme in like craftsmanship, mechanics. You know, it's like you're into cameras, you're into knives, you're into guns, but they all there's an overlap there, right? Equipment. You know, you're very passionate
Is it
about
physics?
this stuff. Yeah, it's
Physics. It's all
the
physics,
foundation
yeah.
is all physics, right?
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but did you guys have like one subject that you were really passionate in school?
For me, I always liked business and anything like marketing or anything that's more like communication based and human behavior based, right? Because my biggest interest in business is because it explains the world around us, right? Business is, for me, is a way for people to kind of express their intentions in the world, right? Because to do anything in this world, you need a bank account, you need to be able to make transactions, and that's how it happens. But you know, I think originally it was the kind of context was business, but the underlying thing I've always been interested is people and you know, the social aspect of life. You know, I have very many diverse interests as well. Like I'm into music, I'm into you know, I'm into business, learning about entrepreneurs, finance, sports, music, but all this stuff I'm interested in the people who are doing it. And you know, because growing up I was so like protected against other paths of life. Like I was assigned this path. You know, my parents told me, you know, this is what you need to do to have a successful life. Everything outside is a distraction. You know, you can play sports for fun, but don't spend too much time because it's not going to lead anywhere. So I grew up with this mentality that like all that other stuff, you know, in Lion King, when Mufasa is like, hey Simba, all this shit is yours, you know, this land, this jungle, but over there you see the dark forest, you can't go into the dark forest, right? And that's why I was so curious, because I didn't understand the people who were doing stuff that was outside of what I was doing. Like, you know, I was studying, I was going the academic path, so when I would see people, you know, just dedicating their lives to creating music or creating clothes or fashion, I'd be like, why, you know, what makes people do that? What makes people do that? And my curiosity got, you know, won over. And I just really wanted to know, like, what the people behind it, right? Like, why do you love that so much? And so even now, right, I this whole podcast allows me to explore that, right? Explore people who are in entrepreneurship, people who are doing art, and who are cooking. I like to talk to the people about it rather than actually dive into the subject myself, you know, because I'm more of a social person. I'm more into people than things. And I think that's my overarching interest.
Welcome to the dark forest, baby.
Dark forest, yeah, the dark side.
Have you played RuneScape?
Yeah, I play RuneScape.
Welcome to the PvP zone.
PvP zone, yeah.
Where we all
Get
eat each
slaughtered.
other. We
This
get
is the
slaughtered.
PvP zone. Yeah.
What about you, Jay? Any topics in school you really liked?
For me, it was definitely art. I never focused in class. I sucked at school, but I was always interested in drawing, you know, reading Dragon Ball Z, comics, even like French comics when, you know, I used to go to French school.
Tang.
Tintin, yeah.
Asterix.
Yeah,
Obelix.
Kid Paddle, you know, that, yeah, you know, those kind of things. It's just like culture, art, pop, TV, movies. I was always into visuals, you know, and I was always drawing. like everything. And then at some point in high school, I got into graffiti. So I was doing a lot of graffiti art.
Did you go tagging and stuff?
Yeah, vandalizing shit,
Yeah.
tagging, going on murals.
Do you think we can still see some of your work around the city?
No, I wasn't that serious.
No?
Like, I had friends that influenced me a lot that were in that, like, in the game.
The tagging, yeah.
But it's kind of toxic. It's like, oh, you're a toy, like it's all about like destroying each other. So I wasn't all about that, and it is a very like dangerous,
Territorial type of stuff.
Yeah, it's territorial and it's dangerous. You're dealing with the cops. You could get a record early on. So I wasn't all about that, but I did appreciate like expressing myself. Creating art, drawing, mixing with colors, even though I'm colorblind. But and then I think that translated a lot into, and then I got into fashion like very early on as well. So whenever I had money, I'd go shopping at Off the Hook. I'd buy jeans, a T-shirt, I'd buy shoes, and I think that related a lot to my creativity because I could express myself through with my body. And because I went to a private school, everything was so uniform, right? You actually had a uniform, you had a tie, you had a blazer, you had a shirt. And I always hated that because, I couldn't express myself in this environment. So, and then I also like sports. So, sports was really big in my life, like basketball, soccer, handball, whatever. Like that helped me ground myself. And it got me out of trouble. Like stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
You know how we'd be playing.
Channel your energy.
Yeah, channel your aggressiveness, your competitiveness into something in a game. Because while I was playing basketball, my friends were getting into school fights. They brought a knife. They got in trouble. They were dealing with the police. So while I was like after school curriculars, I was playing basketball. So that really helped me channel like all of that aggressiveness, that creativity, the competitiveness into something positive. And I think that's who I am. I'm still learning like the business side, I'm learning like the technical side. But I wouldn't say that's my strong suit. I think my strong suit would be just being creative.
Creative. Yeah.
Did I ever tell the story of how I figured out you were colorblind on this podcast?
No. No, probably not. But I know exactly what you want to talk about.
So we were shooting for when I was working with Jay at RXR, our company. We were shooting for men's, and we had a
men's
collection
boutique.
for Stone Island.
Yeah.
And Jay had this smart idea of like, yo, it's sick. We have some yellow fluorescent bombers and coats. Let's shoot at a bowling alley. So there's some weird yellow, purple, green lights.
Neon
going
lights,
on.
yeah.
Neon lights. And, Jay's like, we finished shooting. Pictures come out super dope. And Jay says, guys, I got this. I'll edit them. My creative vision is buzzing. I'm like, cool. We get the picture back 2 weeks later. And I'm sitting in front of my computer we get it a week later. I'm sitting there with, at the time, Goody and Isaac too. And we open the picture. And then Goody just goes, what the fuck? And Isaac goes, I don't understand. And I'm like, whoa, guys, hold on. So I look at the picture and everything's purple. And then the model's face is desaturated gray. And so I messaged Jay. I'm like, Jay, I just wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt. What's your creative process behind editing this photo? And then he goes, yeah, so I just figured that the face was a bit too green or something.
Purple. I don't know. Yeah, she looked like Barney.
And so I just desaturated purple and now it looks good. I'm like, did you realize you just desaturated her face completely and it's black and white? He's like, I don't know, I'm fucking colorblind. And then I go, wait, that was information that was never fucking given to us. Holy shit. And it was from that moment I realized our creative director was actually colorblind.
Yeah.
So it was like,
That's pretty important thing to know.
that was an important information you never told us.
In this case, I'm not like completely colorblind. In this case, I didn't know how to edit properly the color, like the colors. And then you showed me how to like play with the colors, and then I started, that's how you do it. Because I was trying to figure out Lightroom at the time. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to edit. This looks okay, but like I had a hard time because it was like purple, she was blonde, she was yellow, there was green. So I was just like, it's a too much of a weird mix. So I was like, I didn't know how to manipulate that.
Also, the lighting in the environment was
Yeah, it was really
not,
odd.
Yeah, it was not standard, right?
Yeah, so it was a technical
So
thing.
so I guess colorblind isn't like a huge like it doesn't prevent you from being
Does
able
my
to design
does my
stuff.
outfit
Yeah,
does my
everything
outfit
works,
fine?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but do you like when you're designing stuff for Kill Your Pride, the logos and designs and stuff? Does being colorblind ever impact that or make it difficult? Do you have ways of kind of
I wouldn't say it makes it difficult. I think sometimes I see things differently
yeah?
but I'm not that much of a.
It's not that-
I wouldn't say I'm like fully colorblind. I
Okay.
think
No,
in
it's
some instances,
certain shades.
shades. If it's dark and like it's green, but it could look like I don't know red, or if it's blue, it could look purple to me sometimes, or if it's purple, it's blue. Like it just depends on the lighting. But in this case, in that example, it was definitely the technical aspect. I didn't know how to
Okay.
manipulate.
Actually, funny thing is that in high school, I had a art class, and I sucked in art. Like hands down, I sucked in art. Even till this day, I wouldn't say I'm really creative. I just seen way too many examples, and I'm a really good copycat.
Yeah, Kakashi.
And I would always give my work to my mom and my sister to do it, to like draw the stuff for me. And my sister was a year older than me, so she had that teacher last year. And so when I came into class, she's like, Dao, you're Nina's brother, right? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay. I'm excited because my sister's really good at drawing
Oh, I see.
and painting.
Yeah.
She had that, like, not only did she have that artistic mind, she had the motor skills to do it. I kind of had that artistic sense, but I didn't have the motor skills to do it. And that teacher told me one thing that I'll retain for the rest of my life. She says, you will never become an artist.
wow.
She's like, you should be ashamed of yourself. Your mom and your sister are better artists than you, and you should be ashamed. You should put more work into that. And
Why is she tripping like that?
and so for that teacher, fuck you.
Hey, fuck you, Miss fucking teacher.
Wait, why did she say that though?
No, because she
She's just frustrated. or
She was just
something?
frustrated. She didn't like any of my work.
She liked your sisters?
Yeah, she was comparing me to my sister, right?
Ah.
Just because she was like a star pupil.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, oh, your sister's so quiet. Your sister's like a really good student. You're always talking. You're always disrupting the class. Your work sucks. You'll never be an artist. And
Damn.
now I'm full-time photographer. And I think I'm
let's
doing
go.
pretty well.
Yeah.
So
It's an older sister too, right? You're the younger.
yeah, I'm the
sibling?
younger brother.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the younger sibling as well. I have an older brother. I think James younger sibling
Older
as
brother.
well.
Yeah.
Older brother, right?
I have an older brother, yeah.
I feel like being the younger one, that comparison thing is a repeating theme in my life. Not only at home, it's always like when your brother was in high school, he was getting this results, and he was listening and obeying, and when your brother graduated high school, he was this, and when your brother started and my brother did very well, right?
Yeah.
And not only that, when I hang out with my friends, they'll be like, "Oh wow, how's your brother doing? He's in Hong Kong." It's just something you have to live with as a sibling, and I think that's the reason why my personality is the way I am. Like, I think the way I responded to that is I want it to be different, right? I think there was two ways for me to respond.
Yeah.
One way to be like, all right, I'm gonna pursue the same stuff and do it better, and do what you guys expect from me and follow the path laid out. But my response to it was like,
It's never that.
all those things are not interesting to me. Then I want to find my own path that is Kevin's path. I don't want to be doing something that's always going to be compared, because that's what I was doing, right? Like, I went to, my brother studied business. I studied business. My brother worked in finance. I worked in finance. My brother went to law school. I was trying to go to law school. And everything was just like, it's not mine. None of this, I never made an active decision to do any of this stuff. It was just when I was born. It was just laid out in front of me. So I had this really, really strong drive to find my own thing and be different and embrace the differences. Yeah, I'm goofy. I'm weird. I don't take, this stuff seriously. I don't, I'm kind of a bit of a rebel. I don't like to obey,
Yeah.
authority and stuff. And I think it comes from that, from growing up, always hearing like, oh, your brother's doing this, why can't you do it? Da, 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 da. And, I wonder if you guys have a similar experience with being the younger child.
Yeah, totally. Because I have an older brother as well. He's 5 years older. I think yours is like 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah, it's
especially with a big age difference and your
Yeah.
brothers, it's a big, impact. 'Cause
Yeah, let me ask you. Did you connect well with your brother when you were younger?
not at all.
Yeah, you barely talked, right?
Like, our relationship, my relationship with my brother is amazing now. Like,
course, yeah.
he's such a,
But like between elementary school all the way to high school.
yeah. So the good relationship came after I was
College,
like 20
right?
years
Yeah,
old
same.
and on. But because when I was 10 years old, this homie's 17 years old. Right?
Exactly. It's hard.
Because we're brothers,
Yeah.
it's like, we still fight. We still fight, like full on fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a 17-year-old kid fighting a 10-year-old boy is,
You're going to get
yeah.
destroyed.
But I think that built like the
Resiliency.
resiliency and like just the audacity in me, because I always had to fight a bigger
testing it,
bully,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like someone I've always been the overwhelming underdog, and I've learned to kind of build myself based off
So
that.
definitely having an older brother helped me develop my competitiveness. Because I was always competing with my brother, like, we would game and we would play sports. He was always better than me physically and mentally, and he was always better at me with school as well. So everything, I always felt stupid. I always felt underwhelming. I always felt
Inadequate.
Yeah, I always felt like I wasn't smart enough for anything because my brother would do it better. And that brought a lot of frustration as a young kid. And so I was always angry, I would always like throw the GameCube controller every time I lost in Super Smash Bros. In Mario Kart, like, fuck you,
You have a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, so that really built me to become strong in terms of like, there's always somebody better than me, right? There's always somebody that's going to be smarter than you.
Yeah.
So, when I started becoming older, it helped me develop my personality as well. So I started becoming, I did talk a lot of shit. I think it does stem from that, like, gaming and everything. But it made me try hard, like my hardest. Like train. Like, what Little Waterboy was saying, his Indian, one of the guys at
His roommate, his
he
roommate.
sucked at Mario Kart, and then one day he was just training, and then he's the best now.
Yeah.
That's me. Like,
Yeah.
I would, if I sucked at this thing, I would put all my strength, all of my concentration into this one thing, and until I become the best.
Yeah.
So when we were playing Super Smash, 2 days ago with the boys, I'm good because my brother was killing me back then. Like I fucking like, until I was better than somebody, like I would keep going. I keep going. Don't give up until you're the best.
Now that I'm older, I'm very grateful to have had an older brother growing up, because I realized it kind of gives you a taste of what the real world is going to be like. Because in the real world, versus you're a single child, your interactions only with your parents.
Yeah.
They're not gonna fuck with you for no reason. They're not gonna steal your Halloween candy. They're not gonna bully you. They're not gonna, force you to get off the computer when they're playing their video games because you're slowing down the internet.
Or change the channel or some shit. Yeah.
Or beat you up because you beat them in Soul Calibur or Street Fighter.
These some shots,
It's getting very specific. Oh, this motherfucker, we would play a lot lot of fighting games like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. This motherfucker, you would buy the game, physical copy of the game, and in the manual of these fighting games, there would be all the secret
controls,
moves. And that's the only way you would find the secret moves, because like Google and whatever,
Didn't
you know,
exist.
it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And so he would go home, read it, learn all the moves.
Oh,
and
shit.
Doesn't let me play. And then when he learns all the moves, he would fucking rip it up, flush it down the toilet, and like, all right, Kevin, let's play.
That is pretty specific.
Very
eh?
specific, right?
Yeah.
So-
that's not fair, man.
But yeah, growing up like that, you realize, like, you know, yeah, you're getting fucked with at a young age, for, you know, just like you're living with a bully almost.
Yeah.
But there's a benefit to that.
Exactly.
Like, because it teaches you how to persevere through challenges and setbacks, and having to adapt to when things don't go your way.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, I'm not generalizing to all single childs, but if you're the only child in the family, and the parents have all the,
It's harder to
you know,
experience those things.
it's more protected, right? Because your parents are supportive of you. You know, you don't have like a live-in peer. Like,
Yeah, you don't have competition, basically.
there's no peers,
Yeah.
right? Whereas if you have siblings, you have a peer in the house, and you know, there's always going to be conflict. Because if you're peers, you want similar things, so you have to kind of fight for.
You're always competing with family members for
Exactly.
attention. If it's attention, for money,
Yeah.
for, you know, anything, you're always competing in a family. Yeah.
But I think my brother, because he was the only child, he had the pressure of, you know, being perfect almost.
Beating himself.
Beating himself.
Yeah.
Like, because he was achieving good results. He had, you know, he was nourished. He was trained to do this stuff. But his struggle was like always meeting that expectation, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I didn't have, you know, the expectation was different for me. I didn't have
Yeah,
like,
it's so much easier, right?
for me, the struggle was like, you know, I didn't have that feeling of having something to lose. Like, I'm like,
so true.
the pride of the family is on me. I'm the eldest son. I didn't have that, but I had the underdog mentality because of that, because the expectation was like, you know, you're so much more well positioned, Kevin. You know, you have so much.
Was he always jealous of you sometimes? Did you ever get that impression?
I think
Like
he was
envious?
jealous of the kind of, you know, when I was growing up, when I was born, our family was doing much better, and I
Yeah.
had a much more privileged
Of course,
upbringing.
same,
Whereas he went through some of the struggle.
Yeah.
And I think there's a little, you know, envy about that. But I don't think I got the same attention from my parents as he did.
So you were
right?
envious in another way.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
envious in that way, right?
yeah.
Because I had all the privileges, but you know, because my dad was working much more harder, you know, he didn't have as much time to spend with me, like quality time, like actually, you know, guiding me through homework or doing activities with me. Whereas my brother, you know, single child, you're doing everything with them. You're watching them do the homework and stuff. And I think that's probably why I'm like so obsessed with social and getting attention and, you know, being
Validation.
accepted and having a lot of friends and you know, wanting to be included in things, wanting to
got
be
major
remembered.
FOMO, don't you?
Major FOMO. And I think, you know, I've been reflecting this actually just the last few days, and I think I'm starting to come up with that kind of explanation.
What about you, Dany? And you had a different experience with a sister, right? Or
Yeah,
have you had a
she was-
similar one?
Well, she was basically 18 months older than me, so like a year older.
Okay,
But
she's
I'm
like your
the-
bestie, eh?
Well, not really. We used to get into fist fights.
No way.
Oh my God, you scrap too?
Yeah, I scrapped with my sister.
Co-ed scrapping?
We basically didn't talk for like a year,
Oh wow.
living under the same roof.
Oh wow.
Oh wow. That's
Like-
dedication. You both are stubborn.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think one
yeah.
day was just I was in the kitchen, and then my sister. No, I was in my room. My sister like walked up to my room, was like, "Mom says if you want to eat something," and that is the first time in a year I talked to her after we
yeah.
scrapped. But I have the opposite.
Wait. Where's the backstory? Why did you guys scrap?
I don't know. I think
Okay.
it's because from what I remember with my sister telling me, and I don't even think it's a year. I think we haven't talked for like 2 years.
Jesus.
Under the same
Wait,
roof.
how old were you?
Probably like
High school?
13, 14 or something like that.
Hormones, man.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just, it was over something really stupid where I wanted something that was hers and then she didn't want to give it. And then I ended up breaking it. And then,
Ooh. Oh, you guys are petty, eh?
Yeah,
You guys were
we're
both fucking
fucking
petty.
petty.
2 years.
2 years is petty, bro.
2 years is petty
It's
for that,
extreme,
man.
man.
but I have the opposite experience where since I was the only guy in the family, right?
Oh,
Yeah. It's true.
Like even my middle name, my Viet middle name translates to golden boy that my dad gave me. And so he had so much expectations out of
Yeah.
me. And
You were the older child, technically, almost. Like being the boy, right?
yeah, while my
Yeah.
sister I was expected to defend my sister, right? Like we went to same school. My dad says like, if someone tries to fuck with your sister, like defend
Okay.
your
Yeah, yeah,
sister. And
You put that on your shoulders.
yeah, and throughout my early life, my sister basically had better grades than me. She was
Okay.
studious and everything.
Yeah.
But after Sejep, her grades started going down because she started hanging out more with friends and she had
Yeah.
this rebellious phase.
Yeah.
Because my dad was always like, you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. You're a girl. You should be home early. And then turned to me and was like, whatever you do, like just make
It
sure
should
you
be the
come home."
opposite, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of like studies that I've seen, for girls it has to be you need to let them free, while guys you need to
Need
put them
more
in
structure,
sports.
yeah.
you need to
Exactly.
like control.
So
their
my
life.
dad's like, do whatever you want. So in my mind is like, I don't want to breach my dad's like generosity. So I'd always be home at a certain time. But my sister, she'd go out drinking, show up
The
late.
opposite, yeah.
She
You
started
were the
getting
golden
like
boy.
piercings. She would
Yeah.
get tattoos. And I'm there and I never understood my sister. And once we hit like maybe early 20s, early 20s, you know, I started understanding where she's coming from, right? And it was like, I understand why tattoos are so attractive. I understand why piercings. I understand like alcohol. I was drinking with her, and then we started talking, and then she felt like I was that voice of reason in her mind. And on my side, I felt like nobody understood me, how I communicate stuff. And so every time I would talk back to my dad, scream at my dad, my sister would pull me aside. I was like, you know, I'm always on your side, but you're wrong. Like, hands down, you're wrong. Like, you shouldn't be talking like this. Like, just admit that you're wrong. Like, this is not right.
Yeah.
And we started developing this close relationship
Oh, nice.
where sometimes my sister would call me like at 4 a.m. Like earlier, she called me in the morning. She's like, hey, Dany, you know, for my kid, right? You know, February ends the 28th. I'm like, yeah. Is that considered like the birthday or should I count 30 days? I'm like, no, it's a month. She's like, okay, I was just wondering. I'm like, why'd you call me for some random reason? We're like that
Aw,
close.
Yeah, that's so nice.
And I think, but the thing is that my sister became the black sheep of the family, right? Like I was hanging out like great friends. I had like great contacts. I had my business. I was doing stuff. And my sister was, you know, working at a restaurant as a hostess. She dropped out of school. She just hung out with different people. And my dad really just tried to push her and never got through
Yeah.
it. And it sucks for her. And I started realizing like, hey, like this is not a competition. So I was always there trying to help my sister.
Yeah.
Like sometimes my sister is just, she's not very technologically savvy in a way, which is like funny. She'd be like, hey, how do I download these photos off of Google Drive? I'm like, you have your laptop? She's like, yeah, let me try to like dust it off because she never uses a laptop.
Because you were always there to do it.
Yeah, I was there
Yeah.
to help her out.
Yeah.
But I'm always there. And I think at the end of the day, it's just now we're so close in age that now we understand each other. We know how we communicate.
And you know, that being a bit older now, it's just full of feelings of gratitude to have a brother.
Yeah.
Because you know, that's literally the only person on the planet who literally went through the same shit as you. Like they know how fucked up your parents are because they had the same parents. They knew how difficult it was growing up because they grew up in the same household. And like as we continue to grow older in life, like nobody's gonna know you better than your family, first of all. And if you have a sibling, like, you know, that's a peer who is your family. And you know, I think you know, it's important to promote some brotherly, sisterly love, you know. So yeah, I think I'm happy to leave everybody with that.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, a lot of people ask, how do I have a good relationship with my siblings? But it's just as simple as just
Respect,
walking
yeah.
into their room and just asking what they're doing, like being interested in what they do. If they have an interest in music, listen to the same music. Be there for your sibling so they can open up. Ain't no way you're gonna have your sibling open up to you if you just lay back on the side doing your things and not care about what your siblings do. Like if you start showing interest in what they do, they will eventually become your best friend.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it really depends on the family, right? The family dynamic.
Yeah, the family dynamic is pretty important. Just to like wrap up what I wanted to say. Like recently, I helped my brother interview for job because he was job searching after his master's in engineering, and usually we don't really talk in term like 'cause he lives in Toronto, but even when we used to live in the house, I already moved out early on, so we never really talked, and even in our childhood. But it was cool to see a different side, to be able to help my brother, to be able to I was doing like interview role play, and then I was giving him tips on how to wait, did I say tits or tips?
Tips.
Tips.
But you did say tits.
Just to make it clear, tips.
What are you doing after this, man? Fuck.
Giving him tips on how to interview because I worked in recruitment, right? So, and then he got a job recently with the Canadian government, and I'm super happy for him. And it's good to have a relationship where we could be on the same level now, because I always felt I was below, I always felt inferior, and it's nice to be both adults and to communicate, to help each other. And I think family's very important. And my dad used to always say family is number one, but we never really see that. We never really felt that like closeness because we were always like very scattered in our family. So it was nice to he's my brother. I'm there to help him anytime, and I felt like for the first time in my life, having a brother, it's like having a family member. It's like it does make you feel like you're not alone in this world.
Yeah.
You guys are going through the same struggle as you were saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that pretty much wraps it up for the KYP podcast. Like always, my name's Dany.
James.
Asian sensation.
Yeah, Asian sensation. There you go.
James J. Line. Kevin G.
And remember to
Kill your
Kill your
pride,
pride,
baby.
baby.
Jinx.